and I was at the party very, very late last night. So I'm going to do my best to be awake and alert. So about me, first of all, I've been at Google for about 4 years. I've worked with game developers on Android almost that entire time. And what I wanted to do is talk about the word gratuitous to begin with. Because it really means two things. It either means free or uncalled for. And I think that a lot of that applies to the world of gaming right now. So let's talk about free first. I hope every one of you, actually, let me do a show of hands. How many people actually managed to pick up one of our ADT1s downstairs? OK, almost everyone. That's great. We're going to be giving them away until 1 o'clock today. So if you haven't gotten yours yet, you still have time. And a lot of people are saying, well, what is this thing that we've been handed? And so I just wanted to make sure you actually knew. It is a Tegra 4 with 2 gigs of RAM, 16 gigs of internal storage. And you can find all about how to program it on developer.android.com preview TV ADT1. Now, it does come with a special, really wacky debug cable. It does not do ADB over the network if you've ever played with like the older Google TV devices. This is an Android TV, and this does actually have a USB splitter cable on the back of it that should be in the box. Make sure you have one. Otherwise, you'll be really sad and you won't be able to put any content on it. So, developing for TV is how I wanted to kind of start this. Obviously, how many of you out there are console developers by trade, first of all? And so is everyone else PC? PC show of hands? And then mobile. OK, all right. Well, so you all know that touching your TV just kind of sucks. So obviously, you've got to think about controls and think about what to do. But also, what you have to do is make sure when you ship this, and Unity will hopefully do this for you at some point when in the Android TV checkbox, it doesn't do it yet. So you have to make sure the manifest actually says we don't require a touchscreen. Because Android, by default, assumes every device has a touchscreen. So unless you tell us that you don't need one, we assume you do, and people who have TVs will not be able to see it. As I said, I'm hoping that at some point Unity will just do this magically. However, if any of you have played with it, it's very, very easy to do custom manifest settings with Unity. You just create a second Android manifest XML file, and Unity magically combines them together for you. It's really, really cool. So I'm going to do a bunch of manifest stuff here. Obviously, virtual controls don't work very well on a TV either. But they're really, really cool if you've already done this because they map really well to joysticks. The controller that you have actually supports controller lights, which is also awesome. This isn't yet supported in Uni, but I hope it will. But you can actually get to the interface pretty easily by using Android Java proxy and calling through to this get controller number function. Note that that's only supported in recent versions of Android, so you want to make sure to protect that code, because Android Java proxy really doesn't like it if you try to call things that don't exist. That's a really good way to, boom, immediately crash Unity. You can also now say that you require a controller, which is important, because by default, if you say that you only work without a touchscreen, Android says, oh, well, that means that I'll work with a D-pad and an OK key. All right? And that's fine. In fact, I encourage as many of you as possible to make games that'll work with a D-pad and one button. But since I fully expect, and I really hope, that there are a bunch of games that are more complicated than that out there, if you require a controller, you're going to need to do this. This does not work today on Google Play. It will eventually work. So I'm giving you a preview of what you will do. You can also say, which is pretty cool, and this is all coming soon in the next release of our L Preview tools, that you actually can support a touchscreen and a controller. So you can be very specific. So you can say, I need a touchscreen and I need a gyro, or I'll work with one of these really cool gamepads. So once again, that's all coming soon. And I think we're probably going to change this to just android.hardware.gamepad, because people are like, isn't it redundant to put compatible on there? And like, yeah, it's pretty redundant. In order to appear in the lean-back launcher, again, this is all stuff that Unity's checkbox will do for you. I'm pretty sure this is already there. That's how you appear in the lean-back launcher. Basically, you just create a second intent filter in your manifest, and boom, you now are in the lean-back launcher. Pretty slick. We also have these cool new banners that show up in the television launcher, and those banners are accessed using Android:banner in the manifest, and they are 320 by 180. So, because they're 160 by 90, and we assume a TV is XHDPI for some random reason. So that's how that works. And You got to think about overscan on TVs, because believe it or not, in the world of digital television, people have decided not to fix this, which is kind of mind-blowing to me. But you plug an HDMI signal into a random TV, and it doesn't display all the picture. It's kind of, so this, again, I was totally blown away, but we've seen a whole bunch of TVs now that really do a terrible job with this. So try not to put anything really, really important in that border. Give like a 5% border when you're thinking about addressing TVs, because it kind of sucks if you're seeing your HUD cut off in some really awkward way. All right, I'm just going to tell you, I did promise a couple of things in this talk. I'm going to go through some stuff that I've gone through a whole bunch of times before. If you've already seen this, my apologies. But basically, people always ask me these questions. In Google Play, yeah, and yeah, right, tons and tons of questions, and we try not to answer them. But what we do say is try to focus on that user, because that user is really, really important. And our secret formula for success is happy and more users. And that makes a lot of sense when you're thinking about freemium gaming, especially, which almost everyone is these days. So the cool thing, and this is what I really wanted to point out, is if you go to developer.android.com/distribute/quality/index.html, but more importantly, if you go to distribute app quality, there actually is this whole cool thing of app quality guidelines. And I actually helped build these. We took the team that was responsible for testing for featuring on Google Play, and we said, give us your test plan. And they put this thing together for us, and then we spent about 2 months translating it into English, from English, but so it's pretty readable. It actually has tests as well as kind of verification. So it's got criteria and verification stuff. So you can actually use this. Most of the stuff that's doesn't really apply to games, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that does. So I'm going to highlight it really, really fast. And that's even an old version of the website. So that's the whole doc. It's really long. It's worth handing to a QA team if you have one. If not, just kind of skim it. Make sure you know it. But back button navigation is really, really important. Really, really important. And the reason why is because Android devices have back buttons. Other devices don't. It's one of the most common things that people do in Unity is actually to forget to wire that up. And so our review team looks at it, and it doesn't pass, and then I have to go back to people and say, well, either someone has to decide, do we really want to continue to work on this because they're really, really busy, they get thousands of submissions a day, or do we actually contact the developer and say, please fix this? So it's better if you just have it done the right way. Get rid of the menu key, target recent SDK versions. That's cool. Notifications. A lot of people do this. You see a lot of games doing this really horribly. They put up like 50 notifications. When you actually go into the game and you do the thing that's related to the notification, they don't dismiss the notification. We now support stack notifications since Jelly Bean, and it's really, really awesome to take advantage of them. And notifications are really important. They bring your users back into the game. We want you to use them. Just don't make the rest of the phone experience miserable, like putting ads in them. All right, permissions are really great. I've done this for a long time. My top 10 bad game permissions, and these are all things you shouldn't do, because if you do them, our team will say, oh God, now why are you doing this? And they'll come back to you and they'll ask for an explanation, and they might not like your explanation. So it's better just not to use them unless there's a really, really strong reason, especially like SMS, because that shows up this really horrible alert saying this app may build you without your knowledge, and it's kind of awful. Although we do a bunch of stuff in the later versions of Android to prevent people from doing that, it's still a really bad permission. All right, I'm not going to go through everything. Don't play when stuff is when you're don't play audio when you're off the screen, because it's a really if you're in a meeting and your buying music is playing, your boss gets mad, and you lose your job. It's awful. Of course, we're all gamers, so that's not going to happen to us. Our boss is going to be like, cool, what are you playing? And then finally. Oh yeah, you can use strict mode. Strict mode is really cool. Most of this stuff doesn't apply to you if you're using Unity, to be honest. But high quality graphics are important, making sure that you can actually target large screen size. Really, take advantage of having level of detail. It's cool. All right, that's all I'm going to do there. I said this is like super fast talk, everything you can possibly learn in half an hour. Oh God, it's Greek. So that's actually Demos Kratos. One of the things I love about Unity is they talk about the democratization of gaming, and I think that's actually very much in line with what we do at Google with the democratization of information. You know, our goal here at Google basically is to make the world's information universally accessible and useful. And you know, these are all search queries, by the way. If you've ever seen this, this is a really cool little visualization. And so we started off with development. Obviously, we have two spectacular, incredibly open source platforms, distribution mechanisms to write games against in Android and Chrome. We have over 1 billion active users on Android. We have Google Play, which is a very, very open store. I'm going to highlight just a couple of things. Probably my favorite feature in Google Play is alpha and beta testing. How many people here know about alpha and beta testing in Google Play? How many people have actually used it? How many people like it? OK, that's good. People who use it like it. It's true. I mean, everyone uses alpha and beta testing on Google Play. We use it internally. Facebook uses it. Most of our big game developers use it. It is an incredibly powerful feature to be able to do two things. One is it allows you to segment your marketplace and say, OK, I'm releasing a new version of my game, and I really want to see if people hate it. You can even see, maybe I want to see what monetizes, all that kind of stuff. So you can actually do that, test a chunk of your audience. You can say, let's send it to 20% of the users out there and see if that works. 10%, 5% of the users. Let's get some feedback. You can, for stage releasing, you can also actually put together a group in Google Groups or in Google Plus, communities, and you can actually set up a beta team. So you can say, sign up for my beta, come here, and they will get access before you've even launched the title. So all built into the platform. It's really, really great. It's a great way to see how people are playing with their games and how they are using new features. Another thing I want to talk about is Google Analytics, because about a week and a half ago, we actually released our own Unity plugin for Google Analytics, which is pretty cool, and it's totally free. So again, Gratuitous. That's Gratuitous, sorry. That's what we're actually talking about here. So once again, it's really, really easy. This is like the most basic stuff. Put a log screen on every screen in your game. Stupid analytics here, and you'll get a great thing like here that shows you across all the marketplaces. It'll show you across iOS and Android and the web, and it'll show how your game is actually performing on all of those in terms of things like acquisition users. You get this our overview of demographics, which devices. Again, you can see it's working across all the stores as you'd expect. And you get real-time information. It's just really cool. Like within seconds of people downloading, you will see this show up. You'll see how many people are actually using your app actively. And this is just amazing. You actually put together a promotion. You say, boom, how many people are using it? It's right there. You can also capture a lot more than that. Google Analytics is really, really, really deep. You can capture events. You can do revenue. You can do custom dimensions. I'm not going to go into this in a huge amount of detail because we have no time. But you can do event tracking. So this is like I've got an achievement unlocked. I've slayed 10 dragons. And this is actually how you would set it through the Unity plugin. So again, it's super trivial to do this. How many people here do not use an analytics package in their game? All right, well, that's good. How many? Because you really, everyone, you know what, honestly, I don't care which analytics package you use personally. I like certain aspects about Google Analytics, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But you want to use an analytics package. You want to know what your users are doing. It's just so important. Of course, you can track revenue. We have custom dimensions. This is actually pretty cool. Like you can actually take your users and find out, let's see, well, how do the users that have met the dollar and wizard actually turn out to monetize? And get really, really deep. And so you can do this custom dimension here. You can do conditions, all sorts of really, really cool stuff without having to do almost any additional work. Once again, this is gratuitous stuff. You should use it. All right, let's get back to democracy. So now we know a little bit about our users and what they do. But how do we use this information to actually help you guys make money? Who here wants to actually make money, by the way? OK, that's good. That's good. Because, some people are in this for the art. Totally get that. And, if only we had this ability to run experiments and figure out how users could monetize. Like, that's what we really want. We want to be able to say, let's send out 1,000 different versions of our app out there. And in fact, that is what Google does every single day with Google Search. You don't know this, but you're actually being experimented on. There are hundreds of different experiments running. That experiment might be moving the icon by 1 pixel to the right. I mean, these are very subtle experiments in many cases. Sometimes you're just getting a completely different interface to Google Search. And we're running things constantly to move the system forward. Sometimes it might just be an internal thing you can't even see, and is it delivering faster results or not? So you want to be able to do the same thing in your games, and And the reason is, especially when you're on app stores that don't let you update your app constantly, you ship your app and it's kind of fixed, and you don't want to have to download new apps down to every single user just to test some minor tweak you might have in monetization. And so what we've done is we've actually taken the same technology we use to run experiments on Google Search, and we have given it to the world in the form of Google Tag Manager for mobile apps. And what this allows you to do is basically say, I have a whole bunch of strings, and I want those strings to get distributed to a certain chunk of the population. And then what you can do is you can say, I want monetization, or I want to have more engagement, and Google Tag Manager will actually solve for that. So you don't even have to literally, you can just put all this stuff in your game, and then your game will optimize itself. It's kind of cool. You still have to put the work to put it into your game, but it's not hard, and it's totally cool just to see what happens. You don't be too obvious about this. Sometimes you say users really hate when an object costs 500 coins in one place and 100 coins in another place. But again, play with it, especially if you can do it across regions, and you can do that with Tag Manager, because what you want are users that are falling into these engaged, monetized. But even again, those other two corners aren't too bad. Another thing I want to mention is AdMob. I'm not going to talk at all about this. We sell ads at Google, by the way. If you're using analytics, it integrates really well with AdMob. It allows us to deliver better ads. Us delivering better ads makes you more money. So if you're using analytics, consider using AdMob, because it makes AdMob better. That's it. All right. Google Play Games. How many people here have used Google Play Games before? How many people don't know what Google Play Games is? All right, that's good. Basically, this is actually a service that we have that runs across Android and iOS and the web, and it brings a standard set of services for gifts, achievements, leaderboards, save games, multiplayer, and quests. And you're like, what the heck is some of that stuff? I won't go into enormous detail, but basically the idea was, and gets back to the democratization of game development, that what we wanted to do is to actually give independent developers the same kinds of tools that all the big developers are using to get more users and get engagement. So game gifts is really, really obvious. I want to send gifts between people. We built an infrastructure for doing it. It's pretty cool. I still want us to do more with it. Quests are kind of interesting. Well, this actually allows you to run events, and I'll talk about this in some detail later on. But basically what we did is we did some serious research here, and we discovered there were 3 archetypes. I swear this was real research done at Google. Someone got paid to do this. And basically you can grade them on a scale of openness. And so you've got your competitor gamer, and we basically created services that would work for all of them. So competitor likes everything. Completionist is kind of a lone wolf, and of course this guy's got the wolf background. And this is the person who thinks they're not a gamer at all. They're like, I'm not a gamer, but I play Farmville every single day for 4 hours. And so basically, we built all those things to target these different gaming models. But let me talk a little bit about quests, because quests are cool, and they're new, which makes them even more cool. And once what you do is you actually create events in your game, and you log those events. So log an event might be kill the dragon. An event might be bought an item, whatever it is, but probably something hopefully in the game that's interesting. And then what you do is you go to our server and you say, all right, this weekend I want to drive more people to the game. So what I'm going to do is, if that user manages to complete this series of events, then I'm going to give them a special item. And you have to have this endpoint in your game set that'll give the user this item from Google. So you have to set that up beforehand. But once you've actually done that work in the game and made that plumbing, you can then create events. The events show up in the Google Play Games app, and the events also show up in your app, and they can accept the quests. And then boom, they can get rewarded when it's done. It's a great way of driving engagement. We know that one of the things that indie developers struggle with is keeping the game fresh and alive with new content. And I'm only on 65 out of 104 slides. I'm so screwed. All right. So another thing I want to talk about is that's really important is these 2 people. One of them has an iPhone, one of them has an Android phone, and they can send messages and they can do all sorts of cool stuff, but they can't play games together because they're not working on compatible networks. But we love both iOS and Android, really. And why is it good to do this? First of all, it's the right thing to do. It's a great trick. You get better matchmaking. Why? Because more users equals better matchmaking. This is pretty simple. If you can't match for a fourth person, things fall over. It's really bad. So you want to get as many users as possible on your multiplayer graph. We support peer-to-peer multiplayer with 8 players. It's pretty cool. I want to make the Unity interface better. So look for future news there. We also give you free statistics if you use Play Games. So not only can you use analytics, but you also get this, and we give you demographic information. We give you all sorts of stuff about how you're retaining players. Really just useful stuff that you should know. And this, you don't even have to do an analytics package. If you just integrate this, you just get this showing up. It's pretty awesome. We also give you stats about new and active players as individuals. And again, we give you also lots of information about, hold on, let's go back to that because that's kind of a cool slide. You actually can see, here are your players, how they're retaining day 1, day 2, based upon when they first started playing. So you can even say, oh, we put a new version here. That new version's retaining players better. Kind of awesome. So all this stuff is just, and same thing, we're achievements. So we figured we're collecting all of this data on your behalf with Google Play Games. Why not give some of it back to you? And again, this is for those archetypes which I mentioned before. Real-time multiplayer, again, very, very easy to do. And that's it. That's the entire talk. We still have 8 minutes left for questions. So I wanted to put, here's all of the, thank you. So here are all of the URLs we talked about. If you want to find out more about your ADT1, you can go there. Again, those are the 3 Unity plugins I talked about that we wrote. None of them are in the Unity Asset Store for some reason, but that's OK, because you can get them off of GitHub, and they're all open source, which is kind of fun. So now I have time for questions. I know I talked really, really fast, so I apologize. Yes?
With the preview with the TV device,
yes.
What controllers other than the one that shipped would be compatible with if we want to work on multiplayer?
Sure. OK. So we were really smart. We built those, and we built exactly the same number of controllers as we've built devices, pretty much. And this has been a problem because people want to build multiplayer games. So the good news is that most of the Android-compatible controllers out there will work pretty well. Honestly, an Xbox 360 wired original Microsoft controller works spectacularly well. I highly recommend, if you have one of those lying around. You can use a PlayStation a PS3 controller as well in wired mode. The only issue with the PS3 controller is there's no back button, so you'll probably want to wire up select to be back if you're using that. But other than that, it works fine. We're expecting most Android controllers to have BAXY buttons. So and that's how you should expect most users to be playing. But you can pretty much use any controller. Also, the Moga controllers, Mad Catz makes a controller that works really well with it. So again, any controller that has a back button basically is pretty much game. No pun intended. Yeah.
The Google Play services, is it only for mobile and web right now, or can it go to PC and Mac?
There's nothing that stops it from going to PC and Mac. We haven't yet built clients for it, but it actually, we have a standard REST interface. So again, if you want to use it on the PC or Mac, go right ahead. I'm hoping at some point we'll actually have really rich clients for PC and Mac, but they're not there yet. Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. You'll just have to use the REST APIs. So.
Why does the ADT1 have no normal remote?
Because we didn't have time to make it. We actually had a normal remote that we had for the ADT1, and we built it, and it sucked. And so we decided not to ship it. We decided we would not ship something that we thought was not very good. That's the reality. However, what we did ship is a virtual remote. So you can download an app onto your Android phone that will be a virtual remote for ADT1. It'll give you the correct up, down, left, right, et cetera. And we thought that was good enough, to be honest. We didn't want to go through and yet do another spin and hold off from giving it to developers any longer to wait for us to have a real remote. But the real devices will have physical remotes. Although it's really cool to control them from the watch too, actually. If you have one of the Android Wear watches, it's kind of awesome. Yes, in the back. You mean in terms of performance or in terms of? Right. So I mean, most of that information we actually give you. We give you a lot of that information within Play Games itself. I mean, sorry, within the Play Developer Portal itself. So we actually show you how your game ranks against other titles. Right built in there. There's no specific thing in terms of analytics for data sharing, kind of because we're like totally privacy paranoid at Google. So I'd love to see us do that. But there's certain things that other people can do better than we can because we try not to we try to do as little data sharing as possible. Almost pathologically. Yes? So it's all really waiting on us getting the L release of Android out, and the team is furiously working on that as fast as they possibly can. And so one of the cool things about the Android TV device, and one of the reasons why I really do urge you to play with it and try your games out on it, even if they're not fully controller enabled. By the way, if your game isn't controller enabled, if you do need touchscreen events, but you just want to test it, just plug a mouse into it. You can plug a mouse into it, and you can get virtual touch events from the mouse, and you can try things out, and you'll get a mouse cursor, and it works pretty well. But the important thing is that it's running the L preview. It's still a somewhat buggy version of the L, so don't hate on us too much for it. But the good news is you'll see how well your games are actually running on it. And mostly you're going to see issues if you're using an older version of Unity. The newer versions of Unity have patched some holes that prevented things from working on L. We're using the Art VM. There's some middleware that's still having trouble. So if you're using certain middleware, you might notice that your game spectacularly crashes. We're hoping to fix as much of that as we can before launch. But it's worth testing it just so you can see, is there anything I've done that's broken things? Because even using Unity, you can make your game not work. I trust me, it happens all the time. Mm-hmm.
First one is a question about analytics, and can that be used across all platforms, or also the rest of the calls as well?
So the basic analytics package can be used across all platforms. Tag Manager is available across some platforms. But the basic analytic package is available everywhere.
And then the other question is about the ADT one. You said it's a preview version of L. Will that eventually get updates, or is that going to stay where it is?
We certainly are going to update those devices to the release version of L. That's important to us. So we're not just going to leave those as we want the hardware to be useful for at least a little while. Whether they're going to get anything beyond L is still up in the air, but we're planning to update those to L.
Will the store be the same, the Play Store for the Android TV compared to mobile, or will we have to do 2 APKs?
No, so you can definitely make one APK that works on both. And actually, that's one of the things I want to make sure when I'm working with the Unity team here that it's really, really obvious that when you're checking off Android TV, you're not saying we only want it to be on Android TV. We want to add Android TV to the list of stuff that it supports. So if you want to, then there are some developers who are going to want to charge more for TV, for example. You'll have to have 2 APKs. But we're really encouraging people to make one, partially because we want controller support to be ubiquitous. It's great if that's everywhere. We also want the experience of, like you have an NVIDIA Shield and you plug it into your TV and you want to get that cool lean back experience. The easier it is to get that, the better. So we love the people who take the extra time to really make it work with a single APK. And the story is going to be a little different for TV because we want to make a really, really great experience. So you'll notice the one on there right now is completely curated. And that's because we was totally preview, so you are gonna have to submit the game into TV land if you want it to be on TV when you submit the game on.
So there's an additional process to get it approved for TV.
We don't know what it is yet, but basically it's not going to get instantaneously on there. So you're at least going to have to say somewhere in the portal that I want it to be on TV. That's like the minimum, because we don't want just random apps showing up there that people haven't at least thought about TV around.
So I did a build of my game to the Android TV, and there's a problem with one of the shaders. Is it anything to do with the TV to Android L, Tegra 4?
So there is a Tegra 4 bug that Unity has reported to me. I know they're working with NVIDIA on it right now. You might have run into that, but it certainly could be any of those other things. but I do know that there's at least one significant issue they're working on. The good news and the bad news is that, what I love the fact that we're using Tegra 4. Tegra 4 is already last year's technology, really, and I think that most of the TVs that are going to be coming out are going to be using more sophisticated hardware. So, it's good to make sure it works there because there's a lot of great gamers that are on Shield, and you might end up with the same bug on Shield, maybe, although they are different drivers. So that I would definitely I would look into it, but I wouldn't spend a lot of time on it because in terms of TVs, we're seeing a lot of pretty sophisticated hardware. The one thing I wanted to mention is the ADT1 is not the min spec for a TV device. Sad to say, the min spec is 1 gig of RAM, and I'm really sorry about that. But for a lot of titles, that's enough. And also, the min spec is 8 gigs of flash. So do think about how you're using resources, as you're thinking about TV. And I'm hoping that on our side, we can actually try to help out to make it easier to make smaller, more compact things for TV. Now I'm not sure how much time we have. I think is there another session right after this one just to help my head? Okay. There's a break. There's half an hour break. All right. So but anyways, I'm done. But what I wanted to do was I can take some more questions up here. Off the speaker if anyone else wants to talk, and I'll be hanging out here for the next 20, 30 minutes. And I know I've done a lot of work on Android, on TV, on most of our services. I'm not an analytics expert by any means, so if you get into really deep questions, I'll probably glaze over. But feel free to ask me anything. I've been doing this for a long time, and it's really great that you all are here and got up in the morning after a great party. So thank you.